Thank you so much. So I'm hoping that you're enjoying this and following along. And it really, once we boil it down to this, it's not nearly as bad as it seems, quite honestly. They've given us some really good guidance. And yeah, it may not be that it's perfect, but we have to look to the fields. So in this one, they have one defined as actuarial science. What are they including? Any services by actuaries or similar professionals in their capacity as such. It's kind of interesting how they worded that. Specifically not included. Analysts, economists, mathematicians, statisticians, anyone not engaged in analyzing or assessing financial costs of risk or uncertainty of events. So they are trying to kind of tell you what the field is that they're going for here as the specified service trader business. In the performing arts, they said this includes anyone who participates in the creation of performing arts, like actors and singers and musicians, entertainers, directors, and other similar professionals, but does not include those that do not require skills unique to performing arts, like maintenance or operation of equipment, so like your stagehands or somebody that's just maintaining things, or facilities that are used, or disseminating video or audio, broadcasting it. This, they're saying, well, that's not really unique to performing arts. That's getting the information out there, disseminating it, running the equipment or facilities. Now, they did have a little bit of discussion in the final regs that talked about writers. They said, okay, well, this can go either way. The discussion was about to the extent the writer is paid for written material, such as a song or screenplay, that is integral to the creation of performing arts. So if they create a screenplay and then the actors and everybody perform it, they're saying, well, that is a specified service trader business. It's only if they write something that it's not turned into performing art, they're saying, well, that's not a specified service trader business. So the writing one is kind of interesting. You have to look at what are they producing, and if they're being paid for that song or screenplay or whatever it is, that they're going to fall into this category of performing arts. So that was kind of a curious little bit that was in the final regs in that discussion about writers. Consulting, this we've always thought was this really big, wide, generic category. What they've attempted to do in this is to try to define it and say, okay, consulting for the specified service trader business, that is the providing or provision of professional advice and counsel to clients to assist them in achieving goals or solving problems, and also includes lobbying. What are they not included? Well, salespeople or individual who provide some training or educational courses or services just ancillary to the sale of goods. And it's not specified service trader business as long as there's no separate fee for consulting services. So they did give a little bit more example in this. So they said, here's the exact example they had in the proposed regs. A computer company might provide some consulting related to setup, operation, or repair for the computers, but not charge for it. Or what about a contractor that remodels a home and they provide some consulting prior to remodeling? And again, they're not charging separate for that. They're saying, well, that's not really consulting because it's not related to the sale of their goods of the business. There was a lot of recommendations for people that commented trying to say, well, maybe you can adopt some NAICS codes, or maybe you can create a rule for businesses that unfortunately some businesses have to separately bill consulting under their own state or local sales tax laws instead of just lumping them together. Well, they said, too bad. Basically, we're going to decline those recommendations, so we're not going to try to separate it by code. And unfortunately, if you have to separate it for your sales tax laws and you have separate consulting versus the product, well, then you got to look at that de minimis rule. How much, what percentage are you doing? So that's a little bit about consulting. It is, are you helping them to achieve goals, solve problems? Are you lobbying? And then they said not included is if it's not really maybe being billed separately or it's just ancillary to the sale of goods. So it is that they tried to help define that, but I know there's certainly a lot of meat to all of this that we're showing you here. Athletics. What's included in athletics? Well, the logical ones that come to mind: athletes, coaches, team managers, and they added in, by the final regs, team owners. They added in team owners as defined in the specified service trader business. So it doesn't matter if the team owner is actively participating. Again, that's something that doesn't really exist in this. It is by nature of the field of what they're doing. Not included again, they're carving out if you're providing services, maybe because you broadcast or disseminate video or audio of the athletic event. And they gave the example like a sports announcer. So somebody that's just the sports announcer, they're not really defined as being in the field of athletics because they want that to be the athletes, coaches, managers, owners. So it is interesting they added that into the final regs there. There's a lot in these next little sections here that talk about financial services. So they're pretty big on including those in, it seems. So included in the terminology financial services are services typically performed by financial advisors or investment bankers, wealth management, advising on finances, developing a retirement plan or wealth transition plan, providing some sort of advisory or other services like, what about even accountants doing this is what I think about. Valuations, mergers, acquisitions, dispositions, restructuring, raising financial capital. So basically, if you could be doing one or more services, you might be caught under a whole nother category of specified service trade or business. Specifically not included are banks and other lenders. However, even with that said, I noticed there was like a little exception that existed in the final regs, something called mortgage brokering. So if you put together someone that wants to get a loan with someone who can make a loan, and you broker that mortgage and get paid for it, you are actually included here as a SSTB. And you can't meet that exception saying, hey, I'm a lender or I'm a bank if you're engaged in those brokering services. So yes, it is saying it's an exception if you're a lender or a bank, but they have to look at what are they doing. If they're doing all those other financial advisory type of, maybe they're doing some investment banking or wealth management, the banks can still be included in there. So it's not necessarily a complete exception. Brokerage services. So it kind of goes along with that idea of the last slide where we talked about brokering a mortgage. Any services to arrange between a buyer and seller. So this could be, they say like securities for a commission or a fee or stockbroker, somebody that arranges that transaction is included here. What they said is specifically not included. I mean, this it amazes me. Real estate agents, real estate brokers, insurance agents and brokers. These guys are carved out of being called a specified service trade or business. So if they happen to be in that field, they're a real estate agent, no worries. They are specifically not a specified service trade or business if they're in that field. But again, you have to look to what they're doing. What if you have a real estate agent that's doing multiple things? You got to look at all those categories and say, okay, what are they really doing? So yeah, it's at the field level, but it's always a facts and circumstances test. This one I lumped all together because it was like kind of all the rest. Investment management, trading, commodities, securities dealers. So what's included? All those headings. Investing management, trading or dealing in securities or partnership interests or commodities, including promissory notes, and those who regularly purchase and sell securities to customers. So this is kind of the overriding, yeah, they want it thrown in as a specified service trade or business. What is not included? Real estate agents, management, loan originators, farmers or manufacturers who engage in hedging transactions as part of their trade or business. Sometimes that farmers will do that or manufacturers will do that as part of their regular trade or business. And they said, no, that's not what we're going for here. We're looking for these guys that deal in, securities or commodities in a different way. So that's just kind of the generic category for all that. This last part of the definition really gave us some definite concerns when they first came out, because that last part of it, if you pick that up from when we first started, said, the principal asset of such business is the reputation or skill or one or more of its employees or owners. Like, oh my gosh, what does that mean? Our concern seemed that it was really subjective. The beautiful thing is that the proposed and finals regs, they really narrowly define that. They made it super, compared to everything else, feeling like it's very generic. They gave us a very good definition of this. What it is a person that licenses or receives fees, compensation, or other income from endorsing products or services, and that's use of their image, likeness, name, signature, voice, trademark, or any other symbols associated with their identity. So think of like the George Foreman Grill. Well, they're using his name, his signature. Yeah, that's going to be endorsing a product or service. If you appear at an event or on radio or television or other media format. So it's basically when they talk about reputation or skill, they're talking about in this very narrowly defined area. Endorsing products, use of your image or likeness or name, something associated with your identity appearing on, radio, television, or other media. I think they're meaning on the internet or various places. This is what this is meant to be, which is really relieving for us to have a great definition. It's not unknown anymore. So some last little thoughts for you about specified service, trade, or business. I'm hoping that this has been enlightening and maybe put your mind at ease. Remember, again, it really doesn't matter so much unless that person is over the income thresholds. And yes, we do have to make this determination at the business level, and it's put right on the K-1 or it's put right on that business information. But overall, it's not going to matter so much at the very end of the day if their income is not too high. Some last thoughts, they had some specified information in there talking about if you wanted to convert from an employee to a contractor, so you're like, oh, I want to take advantage of this deduction, that they gave a 3-year look-back period to prevent abuse, that you can't just convert over to a contractor and start taking this deduction. There are a lot of anti-abuse and cracking rules and self-rental rules, and even something called elective aggregation rules. This is a bigger world than what we're covering just in our one course, and I want to encourage you, if you're interested in that, check out the final regulations update course. And again, if you're not comfortable with the basics of how this deduction works, we have the basics and calculations. But after attending today, I hope you're comfortable with what is a trade or business, talking about the safe harbor rules when it comes to rental real estate enterprise, and this whole big new concept of specified service, trade, or business as it relates to our section 199A. So we are going to give you another polling question. Make sure that you get credit for today, but I hope that you found it rewarding, enlightening, and helpful, that we don't really have as much worry as it seemed in the past year, having some good guidance now.